Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Rachel with Highlands Artistry and thank you so much for being here. Today is actually April 8th, so today we get to talk about the first 7 days of the Plein Airpril challenge. We're going to take a look at the pieces that I created. We are going to talk about things that I have learned and also what I'm going to tweak moving forward. So let's go. I said let's go. All right, so week 1, I used all 3 of my watercolor sketchbooks, and I will be going in chronological order, which means I'll be bouncing back and forth between all 3 of these. All right, so let's start with day 1. Day 1 I talked a little bit about in my prepping for Plein Airpril video, where I showed my full supplies and my kit. So if you missed that video, be sure to go back and give it a watch. To recap a little bit, April 1st, I was on my way home from a doctor's appointment and I crested a hill that I've been on hundreds of times, but this time I was riding solo. My little guy was spending some time at his grandparents', so I dramatically slammed on my brakes, pulled over, and took 20 minutes to do this painting right here. Which I apologize for the lighting. Alright, I had to rotate a little bit so I was out of that sunbeam and that you guys can actually see. Okay, so on this day, April 1st, the weather was super rainy, the clouds were low and like blended into the rolling hills in the background. The colors were very soft and muted, so I tested the boundaries of this paper. I used a lot of watered down washes, which I believe was very successful. This paper handled it like a champ. I used my portable painter micro for this one with my Pentel aqua brushes in my Etcher mixed media sketchbook. So day 2, don't judge me, but I missed. But like I said, I'm giving myself a lot of grace this month with this challenge, so it's okay. I didn't let it stop me. Day 3 was in my Stillman and Burn. Oops, hold on. Alright, so there is day 3. I took my mini kit out once again because the temperature was lovely. The wind most certainly was not. It was 50-mile-an-hour gusts at my back, but I still grabbed my folding chair, I sat in my driveway, and I scoped out my neighbor's chicken coop as my next subject for the day. Using my portable painter micro, Pentel aqua brushes in my Stillman and Burn, this one is the 3.5 by 5.5, the beta series. And I went to work. This day definitely proved to be challenging. Though I was holding onto my sketchbook and my supplies in my lap, the wind kept moving both of my hands. One was holding the sketchbook and the other was holding my aqua brush, which definitely made it a challenge for a subject with straight lines. This day I also figured out that phthalo turquoise was not working for me in this limited palette. And then it was this day that I decided to switch it out for a phthalo blue instead. But we will get to that. Day 4 was my favorite by far, which is right here. It was the Saturday before Easter. My husband was working on some vehicles in the driveway. He decided to very sweetly build me a fire, and he also pulled out the pack and play for my little guy so that I could sit outside with him and my son to paint. My subject was a rusty old radio flyer wagon that is holding onto some firewood. And I'm looking back at this piece and remembering the feeling of being out there, of doing what I love, surrounded by the people that I love. It really is the simple things in life that bring the greatest joy. For this setup, I used my full backpack of supplies, and I also had my easel set up, which I believe this is the only day that I used my easel. But I put my Etcher sketchbook on there, and I used my full-size portable painter. The challenge I had with this one was focusing too much on the details instead of looking at the overall picture, which took a lot of time. I also did not get some of the angles right, but by the time that I had figured that out, it was a little bit too late, so I just rolled with it. This day is still my favorite, not because that the painting turned out spectacular or anything, but because of the feeling and the memory behind it. Here we have days 5 and 6. Both of them, again, are in my Etcher sketchbook. Both I used my full-size portable painter. I did use a little bit of gouache for the crocus for, I believe it's called the stamen. So day 5 fell on Easter, and it only felt right to paint something that whispered new life. A single crocus popped up right in my front garden, just begging to be painted. I love thinking about how these tiny blooms always show up first. A gentle reminder that sunnier days are on their way. Day 6, I carried that same feeling forward. My mama gave me an Easter lily, and I spent some time capturing it in watercolor. Soft, simple, and full of meaning. I started this one sitting at my dining table, and I finished it on the couch that night after my little guy went to bed. And obviously I took a reference picture of it, so that's what I was referencing later on that night. Okay, we are up to day 7, which is in my larger Stillman and Burn. This is the Nova series, the toned paper. All right, day 7 was cold. Not just cold, it was frigid and snowing. So I scrolled through some old photos from last year around the same time of year, and I found some really beautiful photos of my pear trees. This one reference photo struck me. The contrast of light versus shadow, contrast of the seasons. It had budding branches with snow, and it felt very fitting considering the weather outside my window. I decided to go big, sprawling the composition over both pages. I love the colors in this one. I wasn't shy or hesitant on using lots of color mixes for this one. The only challenge I had in this painting, well, I guess 2 challenges, was time, but also some of the paints in my gouache palette were cracking and falling out. Which brings me to the next section of the video. Now I'm going to be doctoring up my gouache palette for this upcoming week. These chunks of paint are coming out, and I believe I have those little inserts that go in this well up here. So I found colors that are similar, if not the same thing as what is in this palette. So you'll see what I do, but I'm going to do a base of the fresh, and then I'm going to try and stick these chunks in because I hate wasting paint. So let's get to it. And the 3 colors I found that are, I believe, the most similar are, I believe these are all Shinhan. Yep, Shinhan, Gouache, Permanent Yellow Deep 024. We've got Shinhan Gouache and Lilac 111 and Cerulean Blue 85. I just watched a video from, I believe her name is Leslie Stroh, which I can link her down below. where she mixes her own gouache colors, and she shared a tip that I used today. If you mix a drop of vegetable glycerin in your paint when you're refilling your pans, you mix it all in, it makes the gouache easier to re-wet, but it also makes it less prone to cracking and falling out of your palette. Alrighty, friends, that is it from me today. Thank you so much for being here. If you enjoyed this chatty video, please give it a like. It really helps my channel out. And if you want to follow along with the rest of the Plein Airpril challenge and what we got going on this channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Oh, and I want to hear from you. I want to know, what creative practice are you dedicated to either this month, this year so far? I want to hear. It could be something like sketching, crocheting, knitting, sewing, making your own clothes, or maybe even journaling. So let me know down below in the comments. And again, thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you in the next one. But until then, don't forget, stay creative, stay faithful, and stay rooted in grace. Bye, guys.